The story of the Byzantine Empire is one of survival against all odds, a tale of emperors and empresses, of generals and saints, of betrayals, conspiracies, glories, and defeats. It is the story of a city that stood like a beacon through the darkest ages of history, carrying the torch of Rome long after the Western Empire had crumbled into dust. To understand Byzantium, we must step back to a time when the Roman Empire stretched across continents, when its legions marched from the deserts of Syria to the forests of Britain, when its power seemed eternal. Yet empires, no matter how mighty, cannot escape the burden of size. By the late 3rd century, Rome was groaning under its own weight. To govern such a vast dominion was nearly impossible for one man, and so Emperor Diocletian divided the empire into east and west. In this division lay the seed of Byzantium's destiny. The Western Empire would collapse beneath the pressure of barbarian invasions, its monuments left in ruins, its libraries burned, its emperors forgotten. But the East, richer in trade, more secure behind its seas and mountains, would endure. The man who gave this eastern half its eternal jewel was Constantine the Great. In the year 330, he founded a new city upon the old Greek settlement of Byzantium, a city on the Bosporus where Europe and Asia kiss across the waters. This city he named Constantinople, the New Rome. It was not just another Roman capital, it was the beating heart of an empire that would stand for more than 1,000 years. Its position was a masterstroke of strategy, at the crossroads of trade, guarded by seas, commanding both east and west. Soon it gleamed with marble palaces, forums, and churches. When the Western Empire fell to the Goths and Vandals in 476, Constantinople carried the flame of Rome alone, proud and defiant, declaring to the world that the Roman Empire was not dead, only transformed. As the centuries unfolded, Constantinople became more than a capital. It was a symbol of resilience, a city that endured countless sieges, yet stood tall against every tide of destruction. Its walls, the mighty Theodosian walls, were unmatched in the ancient and medieval world. They stretched across land and sea, layered with towers, moats, and gates, so formidable that for 1,000 years they held back armies that would have swallowed lesser kingdoms. Behind those walls, emperors plotted, priests prayed, scholars wrote, and merchants traded. The empire itself evolved into something different from Rome of old. Latin gave way to Greek, pagan gods gave way to Christianity, and the East became the center of a new civilization, one we now call Byzantine. In the 6th century, the empire reached one of its most dazzling heights under the rule of Emperor Justinian I and his brilliant, unyielding wife Theodora. Justinian dreamed not merely of ruling Byzantium, but of restoring the Roman world entire. His general Belisarius, a man of genius and loyalty, carried the imperial banner across seas and continents. The Vandals of North Africa were crushed, Italy was retaken from the Ostrogoths after years of bitter war, and even parts of Spain fell once more under imperial authority. For a fleeting moment, the Mediterranean again shimmered like a Roman lake. Yet Justinian's victories came at a cost. His people suffered under heavy taxes to fund his wars. His empire strained against enemies on every frontier, and in Constantinople itself, discontent boiled over in the Nika riots, when factions of the Hippodrome rose against him. The city burned, tens of thousands were slaughtered, and for a moment it seemed the empire itself might collapse. But Theodora, steadfast in her resolve, urged her husband not to flee. Together they crushed the rebellion, and from the ashes rose Justinian's greatest legacy, the Hagia Sophia. The Hagia Sophia was no mere building, it was a statement, a wonder of the world, a dome that seemed to float suspended from heaven itself. For nearly 1,000 years it stood as the largest church on earth, its golden mosaics reflecting light like the very gates of paradise. Alongside this architectural triumph, Justinian reshaped the very laws of the empire. His Corpus Juris Civilis, the Code of Justinian, gathered centuries of Roman legal thought into a single body, becoming the foundation of law for Europe in centuries to come. Yet even Justinian could not conquer fate. In his reign, a plague swept the empire, the first great pandemic of the medieval world, carrying away millions. The dream of a restored Roman world faded, but Byzantium endured, scarred yet alive. survival became the empire's greatest art. Waves of enemies crashed upon its borders. From the east rose the armies of Islam, swift and fervent, conquering Syria, Egypt, and North Africa. Twice they laid siege to Constantinople itself, and twice the city resisted. Its defenders unleashed Greek fire, a terrible weapon whose secrets were guarded as closely as gold. This liquid flame clung to ships and soldiers, burning even upon the water, striking terror into the hearts of foes. From the north, Slavs and Bulgars pressed upon the Balkans, fierce warriors who carved out their own kingdoms. From the west, rival Christian powers eyed Byzantium's wealth with envy, while the Normans, bold adventurers, tested its strength in battle. Yet through diplomacy, marriage, and cunning, through treaties and bribes, Byzantium endured, sometimes diminished, sometimes triumphant, but never destroyed. But Byzantium was not only about war, it was a cradle of culture. Within its libraries, the works of Homer, Plato, and Aristotle were preserved. Scholars copied manuscripts with painstaking care, ensuring that the wisdom of antiquity survived the chaos of the early medieval world. When the West stumbled through the so-called Dark Ages, Byzantium shone as a lighthouse of knowledge. It gave Christianity much of its shape, hosting councils that defined the faith, producing icons and mosaics that filled churches with shimmering images of saints and angels. Its chants and liturgies echoed through the centuries, influencing Orthodox Christianity to this day. It was a world where emperors saw themselves not merely as rulers of men, but as guardians of the true faith, protectors of Christendom, chosen by God himself. Yet time wears down even the strongest walls. In the 11th century, disaster struck. In 1054, the Great Schism divided Christianity into Roman Catholic West and Eastern Orthodox East. Brothers in faith became rivals, each side claiming to hold the true church. This division weakened Byzantium's ties with Western Europe at a moment when new dangers loomed. From the east came the Seljuk Turks, masters of mounted archery, who crushed the Byzantine army at the Battle of Manzikert in 1071. Anatolia, the empire's heartland and breadbasket, was lost. The empire reeled, its power diminished, its future uncertain. In desperation, the emperors turned west, calling upon fellow Christians for aid. The result was the Crusades, a movement that would reshape the medieval world. At first, the Crusaders helped Byzantium push back against the Turks, but suspicion and greed soon poisoned the alliance. In 1204, disaster beyond imagination struck when the Fourth Crusade, instead of fighting Muslims, turned its fury upon Constantinople. The greatest Christian city in the world was sacked by fellow Christians. Palaces were looted, churches desecrated, treasures of antiquity scattered to the winds. The empire was torn apart, carved into pieces by Crusader lords. Though Byzantium clawed its way back in 1261, it never recovered its former strength. The final act came in the 15th century. By now, Byzantium was little more than the city of Constantinople itself and a few scraps of land. The rising power of the Ottoman Turks loomed over it like a storm. Their young sultan, Mehmed II, was determined to claim the ancient city as his own. In 1453, he brought a vast army, more than 80,000 strong, with massive cannons that could shatter walls once thought invincible. Inside, Emperor Constantine XI Palaiologos gathered barely 7,000 defenders. For weeks, the city resisted, its walls battered, its people praying for a miracle. On May 29th, the final assault began. Wave after wave of Ottoman soldiers poured against the walls. The defenders fought with desperate courage, but the breach could not be held. Constantine XI, the last Roman emperor, cast off his crown and plunged into battle, choosing death over surrender. He fell with sword in hand, and the city fell with him. Constantinople became Istanbul, capital of the Ottoman Empire. The Byzantine Empire, after more than 1,000 years, was no more. Yet Byzantium did not vanish. Its legacy lived on. The law codes of Justinian formed the backbone of European legal tradition. The art and architecture of Byzantium inspired generations, from the glittering mosaics of Ravenna to the domes of Moscow. The Orthodox faith nurtured in Byzantium spread across Eastern Europe, shaping the spiritual life of millions. Its scholars carried the wisdom of Greece to the West, fueling the Renaissance that would transform Europe. Though its empire perished, its influence endures in ways seen and unseen, in laws, in art, in faith, in the very idea of a civilization bridging East and West. And so the story of Byzantium is not only the story of a fallen empire, it is the story of endurance, of a people who refused to vanish even when the world turned against them. Rome did not die in the 5th century. It lived on in Constantinople, in the domes that gleamed beneath the sun, in the chants that rose within the Hagia Sophia, in the resilience of a civilization that lasted 1,000 years longer than anyone could have imagined. Byzantium reminds us that history is not a straight line, but a chain of survival, adaptation, and legacy. And though its empire is gone, its echoes still linger in the laws we follow, the churches we build, and the knowledge we cherish. The empire of Byzantium may have fallen, but its spirit endures forever. And so the Byzantine Empire passed into history, but its spirit never truly died. From the laws we live by, to the churches that inspire awe, to the very survival of classical knowledge, Byzantium left a mark on our world that can never be erased. It was not just an empire, it was a bridge across centuries, a guardian of civilization, and a reminder that even in the face of endless challenges, a people can endure for over 1,000 years. If you found this journey into the world of Byzantium fascinating, don't forget to subscribe for more epic stories from history. And I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, which part of the Byzantine Empire story amazed you the most? Was it Justinian's golden age, the fierce defense with Greek fire, or the tragic last stand in 1453? Let's keep history alive together.